kind of an interdisciplinary mix of psychology and linguistics. Did basically worked at startups since day one of Stanford. So I worked at 5 different startups, led some ML and NLP teams in different industries like ed tech, health tech, sports tech, and met my co-founder too, day one at Stanford. And we just have been hacking together ever since.
All right, this is another episode of the Form Your Own Pack podcast. My guest today is Jocelyn Kang of NoText. She's the co-founder and CTO of NoText. How are you doing, Jocelyn?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Michael.
No problem. We're excited to have you. Now, you were just recently a part of the most recent batch of Y Combinator companies. And
Yeah,
then
that's correct.
how was that experience, first off?
That was great. I mean, it was a hybrid batch, so kind of in person, kind of on Zoom. And so it was a great time to meet a lot of different founders and totally different sectors and, interest areas. And yeah, it was really fun. Great opportunity.
Well, that's amazing. We're always excited to hear about that. I'm going to share my screen for 1 second, and I want to ask you about a picture. And you can tell me who this is. Who is this?
Oh, you've been stalking our social media. That's Paul Graham. He is the original founder of Y Combinator.
That's amazing. And you got a chance to talk with him, and you said it was a little bit different meeting him. You had one expectation and he was another way.
Yeah, we met him at the Y Combinator office down in Mountain View. I mean, really great guy, super charismatic, funny, super insightful. But like, it's like I read his essays, all the time at Stanford, and I thought he would be just this like super like, deep stoic philosophical guy. And then I met him and he was like super charismatic and outgoing and a really friendly guy. So really, yeah, I enjoyed talking to him and he gave a lot of great advice.
I love it. I figured we'd do a little bit of multimedia there and some sharing. So, all
Yes,
right.
follow
So,
us on Twitter.
oh, I'm sure he's excited to see you again too and see what you guys are working on. So, all right. So, for people that don't know, who is Jocelyn and what is NoText?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Ohio. Came out to California after I was accepted to Stanford, and just fell in love with kind of the intersection of human behavior and technology, and really trying to leverage AI to solve inefficiencies and help optimize human workflows and performance. So studied computer science, kind of an interdisciplinary mix of psychology and linguistics. Um, did basically worked at startups since day one of Stanford. So I worked at 5 different startups, led some ML and NLP teams in different industries like ed tech, health tech, sports tech, and met my co-founder too, day one at Stanford. And we just have been hacking together ever since. And after graduating during the pandemic, that really changed our college trajectory, made us take a hard look at the healthcare system and realize there's just a ton of opportunity to leverage technology and, really bring, technology into the healthcare system. It's sort of a space that needs a lot of innovation still. So we built NoText.
And then what's the big problem that NoText is solving and what does it do?
Yeah, so NoText is solving two problems, physician burnout. So physician burnout from documentation and just the sheer amount of notes that they have to take after every patient visit. And then also trying to capture revenue leakage for healthcare organizations. So by automating the note taking for doctors and creating these detailed, structured visit notes from patient conversations, as well as doing the automated coding. So that's assigning the correct diagnostic and procedure codes to these notes. So when they get submitted to insurance, the reimbursement comes back to the doctors at the correct level. And there's no claim denials, and doctors can get reimbursed much more fast, much more quickly. So basically, revenue leakage and doctor productivity are the problems we're tackling.
That's amazing. And yeah, I guess people may not understand that problem. It's actually always been a big issue, right? Where the default of the insurance companies to say no, we don't want to pay.
Yeah.
and, and then the doctors take these crazy notes that sometimes you can read or sometimes they're dictated. And there's like entire staffs on sometimes.
Yeah.
to
Yeah, no,
transcode it, right?
it's a huge problem. I mean, healthcare organizations are leaving like $125 billion on the table every year because of this poor documentation, poor coding. And, my co-founder and I, we worked as medical scribes. That's kind of how we explored the
Wow.
space. So we were in person with these doctors, taking notes with them, seeing their workflows firsthand, clicking around in the really clunky EHRs. And, you realize that there's all these processes that go on after a patient appointment, trying to get the documentation right and submitting it to insurance, fighting with insurance about it. So, we really wanted to build an all-in-one solution that would handle the documentation for doctors, let them focus on patient care, and then make the coding, much more easier and streamlined. So yeah, there's no back and forth with insurance.
That's amazing. And what stage are you at? And what are you guys doing next? Or what are you guys doing next?
Yeah, so we dedicated full time to this idea since getting into Y Combinator. And I think, Y Combinator is really a great opportunity to just fully focus on it and made a lot of traction. So we're working with doctors now in different specialties across different clinics here in California. And yeah, I mean, we just wrapped up, our batch, so finished fundraising, and now we're just going back to work.
I love it. That's great to hear. All right. So if you could offer other founders only one piece of advice, what would that be?
Yeah, I think it's find a really good support system when you start a company. Whether that's your co-founding team, your family, your friends, you have mentors, advisors. Find people who are willing to be there with you through thick and thin and help you figure out, not just the good times, but the bad times as well.
That is great advice. And that's a great segue into the question around community or partnerships. What role have those played in your success so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was really fortunate to be a part of the Stanford community as well as the Y Combinator community because I think both of those are just such rich networks, and you just get to meet people who are in totally different industries, totally different, career paths, interests, and just having that, I think, rich network of people just really opens your horizons and makes you realize that there's so much that's possible, and you can also just get really great advice about different things, and so I can definitely use my communities as just soundboards for crazy ideas, introductions to people in their
Right.
networks. Just I feel like the people are just so important for helping, get you on the right path.
That is great to hear. And that's another great segue. It's almost like that we talked before, which we didn't, but I do want to make sure that I invite you. We just recently launched Intros by Founders Pack. And I think I
Yeah,
mentioned this. It's basically an automated introduction service where you put in your parameters and every week you're matched with another Founders Pack founder or investor. So it
yeah,
sounds like that would be something that would be beneficial to you. So I'd definitely like to include you in that.
sure. That sounds great.
Awesome. And then what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so if you're curious about, leveraging NoText to help streamline your efficiency and you're a doctor or a healthcare provider, you can reach out to our email, which is founders@notext.ai. You can go to our website at www.notext.ai and send us a message that way. And yeah, and you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook as well.
All the socials, we got them all going. We'll make sure that we include all that in the show notes.
Thank you.
Jocelyn, I want to first of all acknowledge you for what you're doing and encourage you to keep pushing through. And if there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know. I do have, as I mentioned, some friends that are in that space that might be good people to try out NoText and give you some feedback.
Love it. Yeah.
All right. The final thing is when we have interesting people on the podcast, we like you to nominate other interesting people that are typically either investors or founders of scalable ventures. So, who would you, Jocelyn, like to introduce us to that could be a future guest of the Form Your Own Pack podcast?
Yeah. There was a YC alum who was really helpful in getting no text off the ground and kind of helping us actually with the YC application, getting us
Oh,
here. So
cool.
his name is Jeremy Hindle, and he's a serial founder and he's also an investor as well. And he actually invested in no text this round. So it's a really great full circle experience. And he's been a super, super helpful guy. So I think he'd be great to have on this podcast.
Awesome. Well, Jeremy, you've been nominated as a future guest by Jocelyn. Jocelyn, thank you so much for joining me. We look forward to following your journey.
Of course. Thanks, Michael.